Let's go. Yes. Finally. Oh my God. It's February 5th when we're recording this. Pete Alonso re-signs with the New York Mets, 2-year deal, $54 million with an opt-out after the first year. He's getting paid $30 million in 2025. And guess what? I don't care. We got 40 home runs back in this lineup to hit right behind Juan Soto. James, of course, is in Vietnam for this one because there was never a shot in the world that this news was going to break when we were both in New York. James, how is it feeling in Vietnam waking up to the news?
It's a beautiful morning from Saigon. Super happy Pete's back. I feel like this news didn't hit me with the punch, maybe as a lot of Mets fans, because as I've said in this podcast, I never wavered. I always thought for sure he was coming back.
I had 1 second.
You did have 1 second. We knew the pivot was never a pivot. The pivot to two middle relievers and the DH making $8 million was never actually a pivot away from 40 homer first baseman. And lots of credit for everyone, honestly, this negotiation. For Pete, Boris, Stearns, Cohen, because everyone just stared at each other until the deal that was okay with everybody. And Mark Feinstein's reporting this deal is very similar to the ones that Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, Carlos Correa have been signing the last few years, the other Boris clients who stretched out. And I think it's a really big deal. This was kind of something we thought the whole time, that Pete didn't want to let this go to spring training. Pete didn't want to let this last. He let this last a little bit, but it's really nothing compared to what those other guys did into March, which we're really, really happy that didn't happen. And I also think it's really just super clear that Pete, no matter what, which we said the whole time, wanted to at least definitely, absolutely, positively be on the Mets this season. This is going to be a chance to be a special season. He wants to play with Juan Soto. He wants to get back in the market without the qualifying offer. This is fucking awesome for everybody.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have the polar bear back. Like I said, I wavered for 1 second. There was one moment where I thought maybe he'd be a Toronto Blue Jay, and then it went back to he has to sign back with the Mets. There's nowhere else that makes sense that is actually going to give him the money that he wants. I think technically $30 million next year makes him the highest AAV first baseman ever for a single season. I think Miguel Cabrera technically made $31 million in 2014, but he was playing third base the prior year, but then he played first base that season. Whatever. Pete got one of the highest AAV contracts ever for a first baseman. That's a check. I think that's something that he wanted to knock off his list here in free agency. I think something that's underrated too, and I'm already going to just mention this quickly, this does give both Pete Alonso and Mets the opportunity to continue to talk throughout the year if, let's say, Vlad Jr. signs an extension early in spring training or at any point with the Blue Jays. So I like that as well, that he gets to be in-house if we want to continue to this relationship going further.
And the fact that this was $30 million deal this year with a $10 million signing bonus. Next year it jumps down, I believe Mark Feinstein said, to $24 million, $22 million, something like that. That's really not that bad at all in terms of what you want for next year. In terms, if you do want to negotiate and have a guy, again, I'm sure a lot of Mets don't want to hear this. We're going to say it really quickly. A big part of this deal was the ability to be in play for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next offseason. And if you have Pete Alonso on a 1-year, $24 million deal, that's very fine to be an elite DH. Or again, him in the mix of first base. Him having a 1-year deal, if you want to sign another guy to a serious long-term deal, it won't stop them at all. And I do think that underscored this entire negotiation. I think that was a huge deal as part of this, because that might be a reason that Pete doesn't want to opt out next year. Like, he might have a great year, but do you want to compete with this first baseman, who you know the team you're currently on also wants that first baseman? Probably not. That might not be good business when you saw what the market looked like this year for you. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this actually will be a 1-year deal like a lot of people speculate, but at the end of the day, 2 years, $54 million. Like, this is a complete David Stearns masterclass. This is exactly what he wanted when he set out this offseason. It was never going to be a 7-year deal. It was never going to be a 5-year deal. It was never even going to be a 4-year deal. And it turns out it was never going to be a 3-year deal because Pete Alonso said no to the 3-year deal. The Mets gave Pete the option of 2 or 3, and he said, no, give me the 2, which I think is also funny because we said that exactly 2 weeks ago on this podcast, saying that no way Pete wants a 3-year deal. He'd rather be a free agent at 31 than 33 if he has to be a free agent again. If he's not getting the 5, it has to be 1 or 2. So it was just a complete staring contest. And I give Mets fans a lot of credit for dealing with this. This was a hard, difficult negotiation. Crazy. It was kind of nuts for a little while. Publicly didn't feel like shout out Andy Martino that the Mets he was going to come back. The public pivot, the Mets are moving on without him.
He's 0 for 2 this offseason on the big boys. He said Soto, they got no shot, signed within hours, said the Mets are pivoting off Pete Alonso. He's back on February 5th.
So that's really great. The second we started respecting Martino, he immediately discerned that respect, and where he's distrusted again. But it's just everything feels like it's complete equilibrium back in the world. Like, I feel very safe and comfortable where this Mets roster is.
Oh, I'm going to sleep so well tonight. Like, it just feels so much better having Pete Alonso in this lineup, because now when you look at this lineup, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, some real players right now. You've got Francisco Lindor leading off. You got Juan Soto hitting 2. You're probably either going to go Pete or Vientos hitting 3. And 4. Those 2 are going to be 3-4 back-to-back wherever it is. 5, Brendan Nimmo. 6, a combination of Winker, Starling Marte. And then 7, 8, 9, you can go Jeff McNeil. You can go Francisco Alvarez. You can go Jose Siri, Tyrone Taylor, maybe Ronnie Mauricio, maybe Luis Angel Acuna. Like, the Mets now have so much. It's going to sound crazy, but like, because we now know what this roster and lineup looks like and where guys are playing, we have the flexibility now to get creative with these middle infield guys, with the outfield guys, and start mixing and matching a little bit more, because we just added 40 home runs back to this lineup.
No, now it becomes a team with supreme depth, whereas before it was a team where like there's probably one-ish spot where we don't exactly know what's going to happen. That was their base. Now the biggest question mark in this team, honestly, is if Jeff McNeil can bounce back and if Mark Vientos can actually play the fields, play third base. Like that's really all we're at now. Those are a good spot to be. Those are first world problems, where before we had it was different problems where it's like, I don't know who's going to play third base. I don't know who's going to be our other power bat. The fact that it's Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo 1 through 5.
It's awesome.
Third best 1 through 5 in baseball. Fourth?
Yeah, Dodgers 1, Braves 2, and who am I forgetting? Who would be ahead of them? Yeah, Rangers probably are up there as well. Yeah. They have a pretty disgusting one. Like I think the Mets and Rangers are very comparable in that lineup, and we definitely have the best player, probably the two best players as well out of those lineups. So it might even be the Mets ahead of them.
No, and I also wonder now, like, what if the Mets are actually done? Like, the Cease rumors are still kind of percolating a little bit. I don't know if I see them as being realistic at all, but I just wonder. I don't know now, because now it does feel like without Pete, it felt like, all right, if we get a frontline pitcher, we go from like an 85-win team to an 88-win team. Now with Pete, I feel like we just went to maybe an 85-win to an 88-win team. So all the projections on Fangraphs came out yesterday. They have the Mets as a huge spread, basically between 83 and 88 wins. Playoff odds from about 40 to 80%, which is basically about where we thought they were. Everything will get a slight bump now with Pete. But now when you look at this lineup and you look at the fact that how many game breakers are in it, if you do get that one guy, that one pitcher, and you guys heard our pitching episode, Lance Brasdas came out earlier this week, some interesting reactions to that about people calling Lance a Mets hater when really I think he's just like just a prospect guy in general. But it's just understanding that these pitching prospects aren't all going to be aces, and it's stupid to expect them all to be. But now when you look at this team, you look at this roster, you do throw one pitcher on top of the lot. Now it's like we can fuck around and beat anybody.
Yeah, you mentioned the Fangraphs projections. Pacoda came out with their projections a couple days ago, and as of right now, before Pete Alonso, they projected the Mets for 88.7 wins and a playoff percentage of 73.9%. Surely that's going to get bumped up as well tomorrow when they update it for adding Pete Alonso to that roster. And you mentioned pitching. That is the last spot I think the Mets really will even take any looks at right now. I don't think there's really any reason to be looking at any other positions offensively or in the bullpen. Maybe you just take a couple flyers and some bullpen guys here and there. But does this make, Brett Beatty's now a lot more expendable because this spot's kind of taken. Does this make Ronnie Mauricio more expendable? Does it make Luis Angel Acuna more expendable? Does it make all these different players more expendable? And I think it does. And I think now that should be Mets fans and the front office's focus is how can we take these kind of backup depth players, 4A guys, AAA, almost MLB ready players, and make a trade to go out and get that frontline starter. Because if we can do that, all of a sudden you are looking over at the Dodgers and you're saying, you're better, but we're beatable. This is a team that we could beat.
I also think a part of it, and we mentioned it briefly last week, and I think it came out to a little more fruition over the weekend. I do think the Mets want to move one of these pitchers with no options. And I think that they know that Budo is probably the most valuable. And there was a report that came out over the weekend. I also believe, it was from Pat Ragazzo, that I think this might have been the last straw before officially getting back to the table with Pete. And we know that things were happening the last few days with Pete, where it seemed like the Mets were kind of throwing a feeler to the Rays about a pitcher for Yandy Diaz. I'm again, there's no data on this, no information on this, there's no source on this, but I feel like that pitcher was probably Jose Budo because Jose Budo is a good pitcher. I think he's known that he's a good pitcher. He's an established quantity that can start the relief, and he doesn't have a minor league option. And I think that was maybe their last shot to do it. But again, now I think just having Pete Alonso, having a significant piece back in, it makes every other piece a little bit more movable. It gives you a little bit more flexibility on this roster. Like, I think a lot of people are like, nice, the Mets offseason is done. I think we're still going to see maybe plenty of small moves here, but I don't think David Stearns is ever done by any degree, any length of measure, ever.
Yeah, the Mets offense was pretty good last year. Take that lineup and add Juan Soto. It is really good. This is one of the best Mets lineups that we have seen in our lifetime. Ever. You can't really argue that one there. Yeah, 2006, but even then, like, didn't have Juan Soto. Didn't have him. I know you had Carlos Beltran, who was unbelievable.
Hey, Beltran, right? I don't know. That's pretty good.
I know, but Juan Soto, man, is different. And Pete Alonso with the homers and Francisco Lindor, like, the Mets might have conservatively 4 players hit 30 home runs this year, which is kind of nasty.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I think, wow, holy shit.
And you, like, You could get crazy and you could say 5. If Brandon Nimmo was healthy all last year without the foot stuff, he was on
35.
pace for 30 home runs.
I past that. You could have 6. I can convince you we have 7 players hit 30 home runs.
Whoa, who's the 7th? Because I think the 6th is Francisco Alvarez, right?
I thought he was the 7th. I mean,
Who's
yeah,
the 6th?
I guess the DH spot combined, if you give Winker and Marte combined home runs at the DH
Yes,
spot.
combined maybe.
In the platoon.
That would be very aggressive. I think you're almost more likely Alvarez could do it than them.
Yeah, I'm including Alvarez. I said 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course. But I think that's where this lineup is now. And now, again, it takes the pressure off everybody in this lineup. It takes tons of pressure off Vientos. That was a concern.
So much pressure.
I had going into the season. If the Mets didn't sign Pete, where it's like, oh, shit, now Mark Vientos has to be like the protection for Soto, like the other power hitter. Now he doesn't have to be that anymore. He could just kind of keep growing as he's growing. Again, I think a lot of people put pressure on Jesse Winker to be like, he's our new DH. He's making $7 million this year. The team uses him as a part-time player. It's like, let's give him a break.
If he starts cold, he's getting cut.
And he's not getting cut, but he definitely will be in the lineup less often. Like, guy like Francisco Alvarez, I'm not going to say it's a pivotal season. I'm not going to say it's a make or break season for him, but it's a season where we really want to see some growth.
It's a perception changer.
Totally, because like last year there was injuries. Last year there was some mental struggles. He was open about both of those things, how they affected his game. That's totally fine. Like you're a 22-year-old catcher. You could take a mulligan, but this is a season where you have to start putting things together. Same with a guy like Jeff McNeil, who last year was bouncing back hard in the second half, kind of helped the Mets get started on their hot streak that carried them all the way through October. And then he got hurt. He was dealing with an injury early in the season. He ended the season with an injury as well. It's like everyone gets to take a little bit of a break now because this is someone that is so reliable that we can bank on. That's a proven commodity that we have and we trust and we love and we appreciate and can be back on this team. It's fucking awesome.
I'm just really glad that we haven't seen Pete Alonso's last at bat as a New York Met yet either. That was like such a bizarre feeling being at some of those games. Like, man, this could be the last time that he ever takes an at bat in Citi Field. And we don't have that anymore. We got at least one more year.
Well, I mean, I was there. That was the first at bat in the Dodgers series, and he got the standing ovation. And he socked the 2-run homer, and he kept that series going for another few days. Kept that fun going. That was honestly one of the more fun Mets games I went to this year because it felt like all hope was lost. And the Mets came out and put up 12 runs in 3 innings. But it just, I don't know. It feels like this. I don't know. Like I'm trying not to get too excited about the way last year ended and like all the feelings that were associated with it and all the grimace bullshit and like everything. But it feels like there's some. I don't know. Get a little saucy for a second. It feels like a little something special kind of got built here, and now it feels like you just threw Juan Soto on top of it. And it's like, let's fucking play some baseball.
You're telling me we took one of the 5 best players in baseball and added to a roster that was in the NLCS last year? I feel pretty good about that. I mean, again, the lineup, like I feel so incredibly confident about. Now it's all about, can they do it again on the pitching side? Can they wave that magic wand and say, Frankie Montas, good. Clay Holmes, you're a starter now. Like, can they do it again? I believe they can.
I mean, truthfully, again, like that was becoming more of just an episode rather than the Pete instant reaction. But like the pitching was good last year. Kodai Senga didn't pitch, and David Peterson, who wound up being kind of the best pitcher, only pitched half a season. So then you figure you can get 350 innings out of those two guys combined. You could possibly get more of second half Manaea, and then all that has to happen is Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes have to just be Severino.
Yeah,
kind of right. Like that's kind of it because 5 was rotating most of the year anyway. And Quintana, like those two guys have to be Severino and Quintana, which are two guys with ERAs around 4s for 160, 170 innings. That's not to me. That's not a crazy upshot. I know there's still a lot of downside in this pitching staff. I think the downside in this pitching staff is if you get matched up in a crazy playoff series against a crazy good team like the Dodgers exposing them last year. But I really hope, and I think that the way this pitching staff has insulated themselves and get really well against a regular season, that we can be in these series, we can be in these games, we can beat up on bad teams, and we can be in the fucking division race all the way until the end. Like, fuck the Braves. Take that fucking team. In every single one of these projection systems, it was the Mets and Phillies neck and neck, and it was the Braves about 5 games ahead. They're a really good team. I respect the Braves. Fuck them. Let's go take this. We now have the best player between these two teams. I will say that. Fuck Ronald Acuna Jr. until he comes back.
Sure, we do. Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, let's fucking go. Like, let's play some baseball. Keep slaying dragons. Like we beat the Braves at the end of the season last year, but I don't think it necessarily felt like that dragon was slain because most of their team wasn't playing. We slayed the Phillies dragon. Let's go be Dragon Slayers again. Let's fuck the Braves up. Let's win the division. Let's go play some baseball. I'm so pitchers catchers report in less than a week. I'm so fucking excited for this.
I can't wait for opening day. I'm so excited. I was already like a couple days ago talking with some friends and just like, man, I can't wait for baseball to be back. Now you add Pete Alonso back to this New York Mets team. I cannot wait for opening day. It's going to be so much fun, so exciting, and this Mets team should be really good this year. Really good.
And again, just to wrap up on Pete, like happy for him he's able to get his money. I do think that he might wind up firing Scott Boras because, wow, this definitely did turn out the way he wanted. And I'm sure that he thinks every single night when he puts his head in the pillow, like, damn, I could have signed that monster deal a year and a half ago, and I would be feeling a lot better right now. And also, one last shout out to the Wilpons. One thing they did that like won the court of public approval was let Pete Alonso play opening day in 2019. Because he got those extra 2 weeks of baseball, he got to break the rookie home run record, and we took that from Aaron Judge. But because he played his extra 2 weeks of baseball, we all just had to deal with this shit for the last 4 months, which sucked ass. That was the part I didn't get from the Wilpons accidentally doing something nice, wound up being something that was horrible. We just had Pete for $25 million for a one-year deal this year without negotiating ever. That would have been super fun. But you know what? We're all tougher for it. Mets fans, shout out you guys for dealing with this. There was a lot of patience. Some bad comments. We won't talk about those.
No, we don't care anymore.
Doesn't matter. A lot of patience from Mets fans. This guy's back. Everything's really fucking cool. It's awesome. We're good. This lineup is so good.
So good. So good. And I think that's where we're ending, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe to Mets'd Podcast over on YouTube. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
I'm Giraffenic Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching. LFGM, Pete Alonso. Big Meat Pete's back. Let's fucking go.
Wait, let's fucking go, Mets. Hold on. One thing before we go.
We have Frankie Peppers? Nice. Hold on.
Gentlemen, this is Frankie Peppers. How you doing? I just got out of the shower. I had to put my phone down, but my new friend Corey texted me that Pete's back. And I think it's 2 years. No opt-out, $30 million the first year. Our boy is back. He's back. I knew it. It was my birthday yesterday, and all I wanted was for Pete Alonso to be back with the New York Mets, and Mr. David Stearns listened to good old Frankie Peppers, and he signed Pete as a belated birthday gift for me, and an early or late birthday gift for everybody else. I believe for you boys it's a little late this year, but it's a happy birthday for Pete Alonso back on the New York Mets. I'm very excited. I'm very also wet. I just got out of the shower. I need to dry off. Thank you, boys.
We got a new character in the Frankie Peppers universe. Corey, his friend Corey.
His friend Corey's back. I don't know. Shout out Frankie Peppers for doing that directly out of the shower with the bathroom fan wearing. Happy birthday, Frankie Peppers. Early birthday gift for me too. My birthday's next week, but this is awesome. I literally cannot wait for spring training to start.
Can't wait. Now we'll end it. See you guys next time. Peace out.
Let's fucking go Mets, baby.